one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So you found this, Ms. Wagner?
Yes, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Any public comments? Going low, going once. Here we go.
My name is George Jones. I live on that Clover Lane. Back on August 7th meeting, I brought up the topic of expanding roles and responsibilities for the local auditors, the elected auditors. And I was given assurance by the solicitor and the board that they would get back to me on whether or not it would be possible to expand the roles and responsibilities as it pertains to the elected local auditors. And as of this point, there was a meeting the very next week, no follow-up. The last week's meeting, I guess it was canceled because of the holiday, the Labor Day holiday, that's my guess. And here we are tonight, I'm looking at the agenda, there's no follow-up. So I just want to play a little bit of a sound clip from the August 7th meeting. I'm just going to take up a few minutes, but I think this will really shed a lot of light on what I'm trying to say tonight. So,
Every 100% connected to iPhone.
get my recording on.
But as it stands, that decision's right. You want to have an expanded role. If you expanded the roles and responsibilities, I'd be all for it. And I think I'd be very good at it, given my background in the business world.
What is the likelihood of expanding our internal audit role? Because from what I've heard, it is pretty much a rubber stamping of sorts as opposed to really auditing.
Correct. So it's difficult because the role of these legal auditors is set forth in the Second Class Township Code, what exactly it is that their duties are. So there really isn't much ability to expand it beyond that unless the township made a decision that they didn't want to have that independent third-party auditor and you just wanted to do it in-house. There is an option. You can do it completely in-house or you can have a third-party auditor. The difference that you have to concern yourself with, and Aaron may know a little bit more about this than I do, is it's not a concern for residents to do it on the local level. The concern that I would have would be if you ever wanted to go out and get a bond or something like that, they're going to want audited records from a third-party independent auditor. They're not, because they use that in giving you your credit rating for the township, and then analyzing your borrowing power and that sort of thing. So we can look into that and see if there's the ability to give them anything else. And I can come back to you with some ideas if there are, but just the caveat is it's dictated by what the statute says that they're allowed to do. So
We actually have, isn't it, free auditors? So we do
Yes.
have an audit fee.
yeah, there's a lot of auditors.
I know, Darby, you said you are an auditor, so what did your responsibility entail since you've been elected?
Usually it was, from what I understand, during a transition time to the townships because there was a staffing change at our township position. Or in and around that, I know I have looked at the previous leadership was thinking about leaving at the time. That's just something that but we just kind of, like you said, came in and it was basically rubber stamping because it was maybe 30-ish minutes being sold.
You rubber stamped what the external auditor did.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
you
so-
approved what they did. You didn't review anything prior to an external auditor auditing.
No, so we were given the budget and we did over and everything. I come through a bit before the meeting as one usually for the committee meeting. And then we went through Again, this was a while ago, so my memory's a bit fuzzy, but I did all know that there should be notes for that maybe too. But yeah, I was a bit surprised because the auditor is a position that doesn't have a lot of involvement. I think somebody said that they had forgotten to show up to the previous 1 or 2 meetings, and it's an annual meeting, so it's not like I don't feel there's a whole lot involved, so I was a bit surprised by that. I do think, if I can speak freely, I do like the idea of having that third-party audit, just because third parties, that's likely to get political out of everything. But I do think there should be more of a process for the auditors to review that budget, to do their own, to have almost a secondary meeting about it and go over the information so that they're not just kind of being received. They get the information that everybody gets ahead of time. I think they should be more informed, just so that there's more transparency going forward. If they're more informed, they can continue to inform the public. It was just kind of, as my first public position, it was just a little odd walking in. I didn't have a lot of,
Well, you're putting something you actually don't have a lot of experience in. And that would be a concern for me.
so they're going to do the year. So we're set ahead of time, and we're set it. Maybe I want to say like a month or 2 in advance, or whenever the third party had finished it, you received a copy, or I guess it was after I was allowed to receive a copy of it, so that I could review it and then be ready for the committee.
What do you receive with the budget?
I received a copy of the audit and the budget. These next year, budget this year. I received all that.
So that's something that in 21 when Bill and I read, we talked about this. When I was looking at everything that was going on, one thing I found was in small towns like ours, there was always something that was going on. They're like, man, and we kept hearing from people, how the heck does this happen in such a small town, right? And what I kept coming to and finding was in small towns like this, there's no oversight. So it's, kind of, I was described by one of the residents who lived here, as we lived in Haskell County. Right? That's no joke. That's some of the feedback I got. And my wife was you gotta be kidding me. And one neighbor, he took the neighbor everything I would tell him, and then eventually he would come out to the word. He's like, I can't believe this. So I agree with you. I think there should be some type of oversight at a local level here. But I agree with what you're saying on a professional level, getting the bonds and things like that. My brother's a CPA. I understand why those firms are being used as well. But I wouldn't mind having you have a little more oversight throughout the year. But I'm not going to tell you I've ever found anything that you found an audit for. How many statutes ever found an audit? With all this being said.
But the thing is too, why doesn't this auditing company include our local auditors? They can do that, let us sit in on certain meetings, maybe a biannual meeting or an annual meeting where everything's discussed, and then we can hear it. And we can have a little input. But have people go out and vote. You tell them how to have next to nothing. That's that's easy. I mean, it's frustrating, it's crazy, and the big word is oversight. Because I can tell you, I would check every line item, back and forward, upside down, as well as any auditor you're going to pay. So,
I want to get that is what I'm going to end this with.
I think it's a reasonable request, it's just whether or not.
because that's really the position I think I would be able to do effectively.
So I the next meeting will come back with
information for you on what role the Board of Auditors can play, what, what expansion there can be and what there can be at the local level.
Budget's coming up to do the budget. It seems the auditors should actually be involved in the budget process so they understand what the money's actually being spent on, and they're just not looking at it after the fact, it's like after it's been assigned or where.
Well, and your auditors are always, because it's an elected position, they're always township residents. So obviously, they're always able to come to meetings and participate in the budget discussions. But we need to look at what their role is, how it's defined, and make sure that we're not going to be violating any law.
That's it for the recording. But I just want to follow it up, and here we are, 3 meetings later, I still have no response, no follow-up. And I was promised, you heard it with your own ears, I was promised that I would have a response by the next meeting, which would have been August 14th. There was no response. Last week's meeting was canceled. Here we are tonight, it's not on the agenda. And it's just a bit disappointing that I'm told one thing and in reality it's something totally different. And it doesn't really show well for the leadership right now that you're blowing off something as important as auditing. And I just want to follow up the second-class township code. I studied this quite a bit. There's 5.5 pages dedicated to auditors and accountants. It's all under the same subsection. It's Article 9, and it's 5.5 pages. And our township only recognizes basically one line that I highlighted, and that, I'm just going to paraphrase it, or I can put my glasses on and actually read it. The Board of Auditors shall determine the compensation for the current year authorized in Section 606 for the supervisors employed by the township. In other words, they okay their salary going forward for the next year. That's the only piece they take out of 5.5 pages here. It's in the official Pennsylvania second-class township code. And the other critical point is they make no mention of using a third-party auditing party at all, or what those provisions would be if you use one or the other or a combination of both. They don't make mention of that at all in here that I could read. Somebody wants to come up after the meeting and show me where it's at, I have the complete code in hand right tonight. But I just don't feel like things like this can be just blown off, glossed over, and not addressed. And hopefully tonight you have some answers, because that's what you all committed to. You committed to giving me an answer by next week. That's exactly what was said in the recording. And I patiently waited. Now, this is basically the third meeting, one was canceled. But unless I get up here and say something, I don't think it would ever be brought up or given any attention at all. So that's all I have to say.
Do you want me to respond?
1 second. So George, when did you make this inquiry? What day was this? This was August what?
August 7th. It was the workshop meeting, and
Okay.
it was the one where...
So we're sitting here telling everybody we haven't been talked to, right? So on August 14th, I have an email right here where you came in here, you spoke with Aaron, and he says, George, it was good talking with you this morning. I've enjoyed getting to know you and help answering the questions you've had. As you stated at the end of your visit, I will put this on hold.
Yeah, well, let me explain.
Down
to you.
here it says, Aaron, I appreciate having a talk with you this morning. We've covered a lot of ground. I've gained a better understanding of things I had on my mind. I prefer to see the things and hear them directly.
Well,
So you have been in contact. The other problem is, as Ms. Vicky had stated, a lot of this is based off of an accounting firm. Aaron had told me he told you you could come in and look at the budget at any time. It's written out past 3 years and what we project into the next year. So that was a way he was going to give you oversight. Aaron had left, is why you hadn't been spoken to. The last week's meeting was canceled due to the holiday. So you're here today. We have a new manager. Have you spoke with Mr. Holbaum about it?
No, somebody should have made him aware of the fact that this was an issue.
But you left it on hold in your email.
Let me tell you exactly what my conversation was with Karen. I also put in a request to know,
Okay.
and it had nothing to do with the internal auditors, the elected auditors. It was more directed towards the external auditors and what the connection to the township was. So that's a whole different conversation that I had with him. It had nothing to do with the elected auditors. It had to do with, I'll show you my request to know. And I
I'm
came
not worried
in, I
about that.
talked-
What I'm upset about is you're coming in here acting like you've been ignored and you haven't. I think I had a discussion with you, and I believe I told you that. I asked Miss Linda Major about her relationship with the auditing firm. I believe I directly got back to you, George, and you're coming in here making it seem like you've been ignored. Like this is the same board that's always been here, but that's wrong, and it's deceitful. Now, you have something you want to ask Sean or Miss Vicky, that's fine.
I'm not being deceitful.
Well, nor is this board.
Well, I asked if the roles and responsibilities, that's what I brought up at the meeting on August the 7th. And it's never been addressed. It's two different topics. You have the internal elected auditors and you have the external. So it's two different topics going on here, Bill.
I understand that. But you've addressed it with the manager had addressed it to you. You just sat here and told everybody in this room you've been ignored. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. If you wanted something else after that, you should have wrote Aaron back and said, I don't want it to be on hold. I want something else. You were seeking an expanded role. Lisa and I sat here and we said, we don't mind the oversight. We invited you to be on the auditor board. The auditor board, if they sat here and rubber stamped that, that's a problem with that auditor board. As you can see, I'm about making changes and making sure it's for the betterment of this town. If that's the case, that's something we got to address at the polls because they are elected individuals. Now, Darby, if he went in there and just thumbed through his document, well, that's on him. He too should have sat there and looked at the budget process, just like I have to come over on a monthly basis. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you want to be in that position, George, I'll fully endorse you at the next election for you to be an auditor. But I can't expand your role and put this township's credibility at risk here.
No one's asking you to give up the third-party auditor. I'm asking you to expand the internal elected auditors' roles.
But that could directly affect us. Is that not?
No. So underneath the second-class township code, there are two responsibilities for the elected board of auditors. One is to meet annually and review the audit and make sure that the books or the independent audit that's been performed was correct. The second is to set the salaries of supervisors who are also employees of the township. It does not allow for any expansion of that. Right before Aaron left, he shared with, I believe, the board, as well as myself, information about a finance committee that Doylestown Township had in place while he was there.
Okay, yes.
That they gave additional responsibilities to the finance committee to have some more oversight, as Mr. Jones is suggesting. That came as you pointed out, that came as Aaron was walking out the door.
Right.
Since then, we had one meeting that included interviews of supervisor candidates.
Right.
And we now have a new supervisor on the board. So if the board is interested in moving forward to have a finance committee that would have expanded roles and would allow for additional oversight, that is certainly something that you can do. He sent us some information about that. The only thing that I did not find was when I looked at Doylestown Township's website and their ordinances, I did not see that the committee had been established by ordinance. It looked like they may have done it by resolution, which is something that you can certainly do. However, whatever document it is that you create this finance committee with, if you're interested in that, you want to make sure that you are specific in what their roles are and what their responsibilities are and what the terms of the members of those committees are. And if that's something that you're interested in now that you're a full board, we can certainly do that and move forward with it and put together something between myself and Sean that we could bring back to you for you to consider adopting and then appointing members to that committee. But, that requires an expression from you guys that that's something you're interested in doing.
Okay, and I do remember there was detractions that he felt to having that it would have hampered some things they wanted to do. So
Yeah,
I do want to go through and review
There
all
was some
that.
plus and minuses, yes.
Right, so I do want to look at that.
Yes.
I'm not just for willy-nilly opening these books to anybody. Anybody has the right to come in here and ask for these books. We have never failed an audit here, as I said in that recording you just played.
Right.
So I'm not sure what we're looking for here. And I don't want to, entertain this idea without having Lisa here. I think that would be the responsible thing to do.
Well, and I think the information now should be shared with Bill, so that he can see the background and the information from Aaron on the committee, so that the three of you can make a decision, because I'm sure that Bill, it was not shared with Bill yet, because as I said, it was as Aaron was going out the door, so.
Right. It was actually the last week he was here.
Yeah.
And he had left on a Friday, so.
And that
Right.
was one of the reasons that it's not on the agenda, because I wrote up the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I was pulling information from everywhere, and I didn't have a copy last minute to carry stuff over.
Right.
So that's on me.
But I think a two-pronged approach where you have your internal auditors who have their finger on the pulse of things that happen, a person like me that comes to all the meetings. The external auditors, they don't have that luxury. When they see entries on an accounting ledger, they may not even know what that entry's about, because they're not aware of the day-to-day business or the things that are being talked about or agreed on in these meetings. So I think if you take a two-pronged approach and you have people within the township and people outside there, probably more qualified in the area of accounting, just straight up accounting, I think that's a strong approach, because you have the internal people that are knowledgeable about the goings on within the township, and then you have people that are hired to really do expert accounting and auditing. And between the two, I think you come up with a really good approach. And that's what I'm after. But to basically exclude one, and I don't know. I just think there's room for improvement, and that's why I brought the topic up. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else? All right, did you get a chance to read over the meeting minutes, Bill, from the 14th? We have them?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and so did I. Oh, we don't need Lisa, but I believe she is. They just want to email this to her. So did you had a chance to review them?
Yep.
Okay, so did I. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for August 14th for the supervisor meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Treasurer's report, Sean?
Thank you. Bear with me here. Started my second week, so I'm just going to read this verbatim from Linda Major's report. The balance sheet for the 2024, or for the August 2024 budget report is attached. Revenue collections are just under 72%, 71.98% if we're being specific. Real estate collections are at 99.61 of the budget for this point in the year. That is similar to past years.